this video, we're going to look at some suggested ride routes for riders that haven't experienced the beautiful Flinders Ranges before. But before we start, let's look at a bit of the footage from a second day of our ride in the Flinders, covering off 3 more gorges and a bit more sightseeing. And yes, we've woken up to another beautiful blue skies day with perfect riding weather, and we're heading for the Great Wall of China. Our original plan is to head out to Lee Creek and Aruna Dam, which is about a 400-kilometre loop. And it was good to see a few emus coming out to say good morning to David. And of course David and Renee are with us, and the louder bike footage is from Renee's GoPro. And if you didn't know, the emu jokes are because an emu took the liberty of running straight into David's bike a few days ago. When looking at some ride routes at the end of this footage, we'll also look at where you will be able to get some fuel. What's known as the Great Wall of China is a very popular place for people to go and stop at, and I didn't really get it until I went up there myself and saw what it was all about and the enormity of it all. When we get to the top, we were talking to the chap in the van, and he was saying that this whole area was created thousands and thousands of years ago, with the ocean reaching this far and causing erosion, forming this Great Wall of China. I guess from the photos and videos I'd previously seen, I thought it was actually man-made like the Great Wall of China, but it certainly isn't. It's made from nature. We got to Blinman and continued without stopping because we're going to head out in the Glass Gorge and head back later. I really did like this ride out through the Glass Gorge area. Getting out there and then through the gorge, it's really fantastic riding. Interesting enough, someone recently posted on Facebook, whether you do the Glass Gorge, the Parachilna Gorge, or the Parachilna Gorge. And one of the ideas, the maps that I want to look at the end, actually look at how to do all of them. I mentioned in the last video that the GoPro's audio mod broke while changing a battery, so I've got no live voice audio. You can see how easy riding that these roads are, so 2-up wouldn't be a problem at all. We stopped for a drink of water and to check Renee's bike, which had been losing a little bit of water through the radiator. It also turned out to be a beautiful place to stop. We actually turned around on the Glass Gorge and headed back. That meant we rode it in both directions, but we really wanted to ride the Parachilna Gorge or the Parachilna Gorge Rd in a westerly direction from Blinman. Blinman Bakery Cafe was excellent, beautiful pies, and we got fed just before a bus of tourists all got out and went into the bakery. Onto Parachilna Gorge Rd, which actually takes you all the way to Parachilna, and it's another one of those roads which are spectacular, a must do, and you've got to weigh up the balance between speed versus sight, and that means if you're going too fast you're going to miss and not take in all the beautiful scenery that you're witnessing most of the way along this road. This was also one of the busiest roads on the trip, where we did probably go past around 10 vehicles altogether, and most of them were towing caravans. Again, you can see the roads are well graded, and this one's not too dusty. There's this couple of 100 metre sealed section through the gorge. So riding this Parachilna Gorge is certainly one of the highlights of the Flinders Ranges. The Anguri-China tourist village has got accommodation, pretty expensive fuel, and a general store. And the great riding continues. We stopped at the Hyson Trail campsite, information and rest area, which has been modernised and has quite a lot of information about the 1200 kilometre Hyson Trail. There was still around 14 kilometres to the Outback Highway, and some of this riding is still really interesting. But eventually you get out of the ranges and onto some just flat plateaus, which is a bit of a shock. We were also heading for the Prairie Hotel. I like that sign, eat some today, kangaroos, emus and camels. While we were riding along the quality surface of the Outback Highway, we decided not to continue on to Lee Creek and the Aruna Dam. We checked out the remains of the Fettlers' cottages and had a little discussion about how much more interesting it was riding along the dirt roads, so we chose not to continue along the highway. We headed back to the Prairie Hotel at Parachilna for a snack for lunch and a cold drink. I do like to support country businesses, but $50 for 2 bowls of chips and 2 lemon lime and bitters was a bit rich. It was the 3rd of September, and by now the temperature had climbed to 24 degrees, and inside the hotel was very nice. Back out on the Outback Highway, we stopped for a photo before heading towards Hawker for the Moralana Gorge. Like everywhere else in the area, this was another really great ride. It's interesting how you're riding towards the ranges. It looks so spectacular, but you never really get to them. You pass through the gorge and they sort of disappear. Cutting out the Lee Creek part of the ride today really meant that we had a bit of extra time when we got back in. We were staying at Rawnsley Park Station, and there's plenty of walking areas in that area, and which was also a great way to finish the day. It was also time for Renee and David to pick up the pace a little. I'm not sure what happens here, but Renee's back wheel slides out right there. Yeah, she actually tapped the brakes. These well-graded roads got plenty of variation, dips, turns, and constantly undulating as well. This Moralana Gorge Rd meets back at the Flinders Ranges Way in between Hawker and Rawnsley Park Road. It's another 10 kilometres to Rawnsley Park to the left, or 23 kilometres to Hawker to the right. The road's about 28 kilometres and almost travels south. This spot is the wool shed where we had dinner each night. And back to the accommodation where we did a load of washing and a walk up a nearby mountain. Now, particularly if you haven't been to the Flinders before, let's have a look at a few maps here you might choose to ride if you get the chance. The first one I'm just going to touch on. Those looking for a more challenging ride usually tackle the 70,000 acre Willow Springs station, and that's the Skytrack 80 kilometre loop, which costs $50 per bike or $40 a bike if you're staying at Willow Springs. There's heaps of videos on Skytrack, with recent ones by Wayne Dawson and the Apprentice Adventurer. There's plenty of places to stay in the Flinders, including lots of camping, and the first route we're going to look at is the one that is definitely the must-do. I'll start this one from Hawker, and it'll be a 289 kilometre loop, and there'll be fuel along the way for those who need it. There's 226 kilometre loop from Rawnsley Park, which also has fuel. Head up the Flinders Ranges way, past Wilpena Pound, and fuel up if you need so. It's a big convenience store there as well. To Bonnyroo Road, most popular road in the Flinders, that one. Stop in the picturesque Razorback Lookout, ride through to Parachilna Gorge, and head back to the Flinders Ranges way to Blinman. Stop at the Miners' Crim Bakery at Blinman and head out for a marvellous loop right along Parachilna Gorge Rd. There's fuel at Parachilna Village, and then head back on the Glass Gorge and the Glass Gorge Rd, and you might want to stop again at Blinman. The pies there are great. Heading back, there's heaps of sightseeing, but the Great Wall of China and Stokes Hill Lookout are must-dos. An idea for a day 2 loop is 294 kilometres from Hawker or 250 from Rawnsley Park. From Flinders Ranges Way, head out on Martin's Well Road to the Pugilist Hill and stop there. It's brilliant. And then continue riding out towards Martin's Well. Eventually turn left on Eridina Road. Head towards the 15-mile creek and then turn left on Weary Alpa Road. There's a short out and back optional ride to Moralana Gorge. Getting back on the Flinders Ranges way, turn left on the Parachilna Gorge Rd. Now, you would have done this on day 1, but you're doing it in the opposite direction today, and there's a little bit more of this road to do. Head through the Parachilna Gorge, and you might want to stop at the rest stop. This extra bit is really good. After the straight bit, you'll have to do a stint on the Outback Highway so you can head down to Moralana Scenic Drive. Enjoy the Moralana Gorge Rd through to the Flinders Ranges way again and head back to your accommodation. The third route to consider could be a 1 or a 2 day ride. It'd be nice and easy to do on a 2-dayer. Out to Arkaroola Village. It's 215 kilometres from Hawker to Arkaroola, or an extra 15 kilometres where you could stop at Blinman for something to eat and drink. Heading straight there, turn off the Flinders Ranges way at Weary-Alpa Road, up to North Flinders Road and continue to Arkaroola Village. There's fuel there and plenty of accommodation, so you may stay, or a big day's riding would be to head back, continue on the North Flinders Road to Blinman, stop for food and drink. Now, you could stay at Blinman, you could head back down the Flinders Ranges way, or you could go and visit the Prairie Hotel by riding the reverse direction up Glass Gorge Rd or back on Parachilna Gorge Rd to Parachilna. Finish the ride back on the Parachilna Gorge Rd, turn right on Bonnyroo Road and head back to Razorback. So you'll be riding these most popular roads in the reverse direction. So we haven't ridden any of the trails in the Flinders, so if you want to leave a comment what they're like, please let us know.